This is Kenneth Ham. Welcome to Real Estate License in 14 Weeks. This is episode 26 of Starting from Zero. Today, we will continue to talk about Chapter 7. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, that way you will receive first notification of future releases of my video. And then, share this video with your friends. False advertising. False advertising refers to advertisement that you put out as a real estate agent that contains misrepresentation such as your qualification and your membership to certain organization. Your qualification, for example, if you're not a PhD, you put down on the ad that you are a PhD, that's obviously a lie and a misrepresentation, and that is also false. And if you're not a member of certain real estate organization, you put down on the ad that you are a member. So that's also false advertising. Next, misuse of trade name. One of the commonly misused trade name exam question has to do with the use of the name realtor. If you are not a member of the National Association of Realtors, you cannot call yourself a realtor because only membership with this organization entitle you to use the trade name realtor. Some people misunderstand. They think that by getting a license with the Department of Real Estate entitles him or her to use the name realtor, but in fact, that license alone does not entitle you to use a realtor. You have to pay membership dues to the National Association of Realtors to become a member. And then you can call yourself a realtor. Next, inducement to panic selling. Inducement to panic selling has to do with a realtor trying to get listings in the neighborhood by making discriminatory and false comments about a certain ethnic group that is going to move into the community. Say, for example, an agent wants to drum up business. So he starts spreading rumors in the community saying such and such ethnic group wants to come into the neighborhood. And also, that statement alone is discriminatory because it implies that the people that lives in the community does not like this particular ethnic group. So we're supposed to be colorblind. One of the exam questions might use the term colorblind. What does it mean to be colorblind? It means you must treat everybody equal. You cannot discriminate against any particular ethnic group. When an agent causes panic, and in the process, when the agent spread rumors that causes panic in the community, when people becomes panic, that certain ethnic group want to move into the community, they want to sell their home and get out of the area. And when they make the decision to sell their homes, an agent will get the listing. And that's the whole idea about an agent spreading discriminatory rumors in the neighborhood, which is false. It's not true. Completely not true that this ethnic group is going to move into the community. By making a false rumors, by making discriminatory statement, an agent will be committing panic selling. Remember, the word colorblind is commonly tested in the DRE exam. Next, ownership disclosure. Whenever an agent takes a listing of a property in which he has certain ownership interests, whether direct or indirect ownership, it doesn't matter. I'll give you an example. An agent selling his own home, obviously if it's own home, he has an ownership interest in that property. So he must disclose to a prospective buyer that he has an ownership interest. This is more direct and straightforward. Now, what if an agent does not, the title is not under the agent's name? Say, for example, the title is under the wife of the agent. Now, in that case, does the agent need to disclose to prospective buyer that he is married to the person whose name is on title? In other words, must the agent disclose to the prospective buyer that the property is owned by his wife? The answer is yes, because the law requires that the agent discloses either direct or indirect ownership. Now, in this example where the wife actually holds title to the property, it's an example of an indirect ownership. That's another example of indirect ownership. It has to do with a corporation in which the agent has a certain percentage of shares. Now, let's say, for example, agent owns 5% share in ABC Corporation, and the property is held in the name of ABC Corporation. In this particular case, if the agent takes a listing and put it on the market, does the agent have an obligation to disclose to prospective buyer about the fact that agent has ownership interest in the ABC Corporation? The answer is yes, because that will be indirect ownership. Now, what if the property is owned by the agent's aunt? His aunt is only a relative. If the name is under the aunt, the agent has no duty to disclose to prospective buyer that his aunt actually owned the property. As far as complying with the ownership disclosure law is concerned. But there may be other things that require the agent to disclose that agent is related to the seller. It has to do with code of ethics. So if the question asks about code of ethics, the answer will be yes, because it will be a violation of the code of ethics if the agent does not disclose the relationship between himself and his aunt. But it's not a violation of the ownership disclosure law because his aunt owns the property and he doesn't own the property. So when his aunt owns the property, he has no direct ownership and he has no indirect ownership. Next, failure to deliver a copy of the contract to the party that signed the contract at the time it is signed. To give you an example, if you sign a listing agreement with the seller, at the time of signing, probably you did not bring a copy with you. If you hand sign the contract, it becomes a problem because you don't have a copy with you. So the law does require that you give a copy of the contract, the listing contract that was signed by the seller at the time it is signed, but not afterwards, even though it happens a lot. One way to get around the no copy problem will be to have the seller sign what we call a DocuSign. But there are some sellers that are not too savvy, so they still require you to give them a copy because they don't do DocuSign. Although sometimes you can teach the seller how to do DocuSign, but there are situations where you can't do DocuSign. In that case, one way to solve that problem would be to use your iPhone to take pictures of the pages of the listing agreement signed and then text it to your seller. That's one way. So just remember, you're supposed to give a copy to the seller at the time the listing is signed. Sometimes what I do is I will bring 2 copies of the blank contract. So I'll fill out 2 forms. One completed agreement is I keep that completed agreement. The other one is just a copy for the seller. That's also another way to get around that problem of not having a copier at the listing presentation. The next topic is something I may have discussed in previous video. Whenever a broker discharges a real estate agent for violation of the real estate license law, the broker would have to notify the commissioner and prepare a written statement. Now, if the broker did not do that, that is a violation of the licensing law. Next, blind advertising. If you put out an advertisement that for which you are the agent, for example, if you write an ad that sounds like this: beautiful condo, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths for rent at $3,000 per month, and you put down your name and you put down a phone number. Whoever that reads the ad doesn't know that it's an ad that is put out by an agent. If you are acting as an agent in connection with an ad and you don't identify yourself as an agent, that's called blind advertising, and it's a violation of the Department of Real Estate rules and regulations. And to get around that, usually people will put down, for example, their DIE number. When you put down your DIE number, most people would understand that it's an advertisement by an agent. However, to be more specific, you should write down, say for example, your name is John Smith, and then you add and say agent or something like that, so people know that it's an ad by an agent. Some people will put AGT. AGT stands for agent. Other people will put BRO. BRO stands for broker. As long as you comply with that, you're okay. But if you don't, people don't know it's an act by an agent, that will be a violation. Next, failure to maintain records for 3 years or longer. As a broker is required to maintain all the entire file. That includes the purchase contract, the deposit receipt, cancel checks, and etc. for a minimum of 3 years. And it's commonly tested in the exam. It's not the salesperson's duty to keep the record, but it is the broker's duty to keep the record. So oftentimes a broker will withhold commission check from the salesperson if the salesperson does not deliver the complete file to the broker after the transaction is completed. The way we do it is we ask the agents to scan all the documents and save it in a certain electronic format. That way, that record is kept for 3 years. So 3 years is the amount of time a broker has to keep a record for a single transaction. Next, the agent cannot get referral fee from companies such as pest control company, escrow company, title insurance. That will be a violation of the licensing law. Let's say, for example, you have a buddy who is who owns a termite company, and you have a buyer who's looking for a termite company. So you refer this business to your buddy, and he performs termite inspection services, and he's paid for that service, and then your buddy gives you a referral fee. That will be illegal. Next one has to do with the requirement to put your license number in all solicitation materials. That would include your business card, your flyer, any type of marketing material such as video, website, and so forth. You have to provide and you have to disclose your license number in any such marketing material. If you ask me why is the Department of Real Estate requiring an agent to put the license number on the marketing material, I really can't think of any reason other than it's a policy reason. Perhaps the Department of Real Estate wants to make it easier for a consumer to file a complaint against the agent if the consumer has the license number. When they file the complaint, they already know which agent is the person against whom the complaint is made. The next one has to do with collecting a fee in loan modification in advance. I may have covered this. It's called advance fee. A person who performs loan modification services cannot collect fees in advance. They can only collect fees when all services that have been agreed upon have been completed. Next, if a person performs activities that require a license, is not licensed. For unlicensed act, what will be the punishment for this person? The punishment is $20,000 fine for an individual and then $60,000 fine for a corporation. This is a Department of Real Estate exam, so please remember that. This is the end of episode 26. See you next time.